The Stearns County Board of Commissioners is called to order. Let the record reflect that all commissioners, save Steve Notch, who could not be here today, are present. Let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So members, suggested by Commissioner Lensmeyer, and I thought it was an excellent idea that we just take a moment of silence to acknowledge and recognize the passing of Irene Persky and her full, long life. Thank you.
I'd like to thank you all and the rest of the community for the support we have. My mom was 101 years old and lived a good life, and we're going to share that celebration on Thursday, so thank you.
And if I recall correctly, that'll be streamed too.
Yes, yeah.
That's wonderful. Well, thank you.
Actually, my suggestion was driven by guilt. I don't remember us doing this for in Jeff's situation. I thought, whoa, can't let this go by.
I don't think we did it in ours either. No. But you know what? I actually almost said, let's be remembering all of those who have gone. Because a lot of wonderful people. Maybe that's something we can do occasionally. But I thought, Leah, it was a really good idea. So better late than not doing it at all.
Thanks, Lee. Yeah.
All right, our next item is the Public Access Forum. Is there anyone wishing to speak this morning? Mike, do we have anybody remotely?
We don't.
Okay, just want to remind the public that we encourage you to join us, whether remotely or in person. You can do so once a month in a topic that is not on the agenda, and make brief comments, and we refer it to have our departments look into matters brought before us. We do take it seriously. All right, consent agenda. Is everybody okay with the items on there? Is there anybody seeking something for further discussion? And
I'll move those items 1 through 8.
Great, thank you, Commissioner Persky. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Commissioner Mergen. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, the motion is passed. Next up is Stearns County Housing and Redevelopment Authority. Welcome, Mr. Fournier.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Morning, Commissioners. Randy asked that I speak this morning. Back in 2014, the board approved Series 2014A bonds with the full faith and backing of the county that we use to acquire several rental properties. Well, those rental properties are in need of severe rehabilitation, but we also have an opportunity to refinance these bonds. Sarah Uch reached out to me December of last year, and she was contacted by PFM stating, we should look at these bonds and refinance them because they're currently at 4.51%. And we have an opportunity now to refinance them somewhere between 2.35 and 2.85%, so considerable savings. So that's one part of the ask. The second part would be the portion that we would use to rehab the 20 remaining units in our portfolio. We've been successful in obtaining funding to rehab all the other units in our portfolio, a total of 78. So these final 20 units remain, and our goal would be to have a portfolio that's 100% rehab within the next 18 months. So with that, Minnesota statute requires that the board hold a public hearing regarding the bonds. And I'm here before you today to request that the board set a date of September 7th for that public hearing. I'm here to answer any questions that you may have.
Are there any questions for Mr. Fortier? Thank you, Randy.
Just a couple things to reiterate what Neil mentioned was, unlike some of the conduit bonds that we've done in the past where the county doesn't really have any responsibility, these are backed by Stearns County, so fully supported as a GO-backed bond. And then, as you notice, it's a 40-year, which is a little bit different, and Neil, I don't know, maybe you want to touch base on why that is.
Yeah, so this qualifies for the 40-year term because it is affordable housing. And the financing that we have with Minnesota Housing will restrict rents and incomes for these rental units for a period of 40 years. So a LURA land use restrictive agreement will be recorded against the land. So even if the HRA were to sell these properties, the next owner would have to abide by the policies set forth or the regulations set forth by Minnesota Housing. So therefore, the 40-year term, Minnesota Housing asks that the term of the bonds match the term of their financing. Not that the HRA will ever sell these properties. We're in the business to provide affordable housing to those in Stearns County, and our mission will continue.
Mr. Schwarfels, any other comments or things we should be considering? Members looking for a motion to set the public hearing for September 7th.
I'll move that.
Thank you, Commissioner Mergen.
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner Persky. Any further questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Pose same sign. We have a public hearing date.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Next on our agenda is the Great River Regional Library. Glad to have both of you, Ms. Punsack and Ms. Anderson. Welcome.
Good morning. So I'm Karen Punsack. I'm Executive Director for Great River Regional Library. This is Amy Anderson. She's our new accounting coordinator at Great River. She started in December, so this is her first budget cycle. And she'll talk a little bit about what's in the budget, and then I will share some information about the initiatives that will come. So thank you for the time this morning.
Thank you.
Thank you and good morning. As you know, the Great River Regional Library receives the majority of its funding and operating and capital from the 6 counties that it serves. Board members recognize that library services provide a core government function to all residents and share in the goal of ensuring high-quality library access in the most cost-effective manner possible. The library's budgeting cycle begins in February with the approval of process guidelines and ends with the adoption of the final budget in July. This year, our board adopted the budget on July 20th. Several goals were set by our trustees as a part of this process. The first, keeping county shares as flat as possible. The second is the use of reserves in the overall 2022 budget. To keep county contributions flat, shares are calculated using our 2021 operating budget. As a result, Stearns County will contribute $2,283,935 in 2022, which is a reduction of $16,474 over 2021. To incorporate the use of reserves, $315,218 from the library's unassigned fund balance was also incorporated. A preliminary spend-down plan was also presented and adopted by our board in July. The 2022 budget supports the expansion of the library's fine-free initiatives, which we started in 2019 with the elimination of juvenile late materials fines. Late materials fines are a declining revenue source for us, and they make up about 1% of our budget. Fines are also not guaranteed, so planning for a significant reduction to this revenue line creates more accuracy in our budgeting calculations. This is especially important to us because our process ends before our state-funded contribution amounts are known. The goals of expanding this idea are to reduce the financial barriers that may prevent patrons from accessing library materials and to increase the amount of time our staff can spend assisting library users in a positive way. But just to clarify, patrons will still be responsible for replacing items that are not returned. There's not yet a policy in place, and we are excited to share our work as it progresses. At this point, plans include researching how other cities and counties have adopted and implemented their own fine-free program. And we want to thank you for your continued support. We'd be happy to answer any questions that you have. Thank you.
Any questions on either this or other things related to the library? I think you should take quietness as probably an okay thing in this case. I know we all really appreciate that. I know you've been passing this on to staff, but this has been a challenging time for everybody and really have been very nimble and found creative ways to increase outreach during this time. And know that that means you're going to continue to do that in those ways, which adds a whole extra level for folks.
Thank you. We appreciate the support from the counties that we serve. We've spent a lot of time last year learning from the experiences of the various counties on how to do, reopening and providing access to the public either by appointment or on demand over the course of the year. And then we also did some great initiatives. The Fines Free came from some of that. We're also going to be really focusing on making the libraries even more welcoming and open to all in the next year. We had some examples of that in the handout we included in the packet. So like we've added some languages to our catalog to make it easier to search. And we're also changing some of our signage in our libraries and making our displays more inclusive. The other thing that we've taken a look at is, other ways of providing access. You probably saw the WJON article this morning. The city of Sartell passed a longer-term agreement on the GRL to go locker system last night. Great River Board still needs to approve that, but we are looking at keeping that in place for another 6 years. We've learned a lot through that project, but it's been a great partnership in trying to figure out how to do library services differently.
Great. Certainly the online, being able to get cards and renewing them online I've heard from several people, including my mom, who often talks about she's not great technologically, but she actually is not too bad.
Well, and
Given she could do it.
we've got people who will answer the phone and talk you through it from home.
Right, I was going to say, technical,
That's
yeah, she
helpful.
needs to renew it. She's like, I don't know. It's like, they'll talk you through it.
Yeah, we worked really hard to make that online stuff a little more accessible, and we're going to continue to do that too.
That's great. Well, thank you. Commissioner Lensmeyer.
The remarkable episodes that put the library into a special place were a number of years ago when they couldn't serve the public because of the fire, and then most recently with the COVID stuff, another incident, but still were able to, in both cases, use the opportunity to make some changes. And so normally in these presentations, you make a big deal out of providing service. In their case, or our case, I'm on the board, it's what they did when they couldn't serve the public. That was remarkable. So it's gone well. It's not a one-size-fits-all operation. The St. Cloud unit, obviously bigger and the biggest in the central part of the system. But what I'm encouraged to see is that individual branches have the opportunity, with the approval of the board, to provide more unique services. The example I gave this morning, the locker system in Sartell is one example. Maybe going forward, if there's other opportunities for what I would call tailored service, maybe we should be looking at that. I don't know what that would be, but it's worked twice, and even if we didn't plan it, and we'll take it. So the individual cities, if they've got ideas, they should be encouraged.
Commissioner Persky.
Karen, I've always appreciated the work at the library, and the services you provide walking, through the door are tremendous, and want to see those continue. But also excited as we expand broadband. reach some of those folks that otherwise can't get to the library. And, there's a great push for that across the nation and here in Stearns County. So looking forward to expanding that to more folks.
Thinking about your work with the hotspots, I mean, it reinforced just how challenging this is and how you can't really do it one hotspot at a time, but you made a real difference. So I think you know that this broadband's an issue that we're very serious about helping, working with others to expand it.
Thank you. We just submitted our ARPA app, so public libraries across the state are getting some funds from the American Rescue Plan Act. And part of our proposal is to actually extend hotspot. We already have extra hotspot money, and I can talk about that, but to expand the wireless signal in locations that actually have a parking lot with the library. So some of the communities we've reached out to are like Albany, where they've got the little pavilion out front. And it wouldn't just be the Wi-Fi signal from the library building extending out. It would actually be an external access point. So that's one of the initiatives we're working on right now. We haven't received the funds in the door, but we'll have to have them spent by the end of September, so it'll move fairly quickly once we get those funds in the door.
It's great, given we know it's going to take a little while to
Yeah.
actually be able to do the build-outs on the bigger infrastructure, so.
Well, and
that's helpful.
there's the whole security thing that you have to work through
Totally.
with the cities. I mean, if you're in a really remote location and you don't have local city police, that might not be the best option for that community. We recognize that, so we are working with the cities to see what makes the most sense for those locations. Last year, the state legislature also expanded our allowable uses for our telecommunications aids. So we have a hotspot checkout program now, and we started with locations that had low broadband adoption rates and high levels of free and reduced lunch kids. And now that we've learned from that project over the course of the year, we're going to be expanding that project to more libraries. There's a lot of things you learn in circulating hotspots. Hotspots weren't really designed to be dropped and picked up from multiple people. That's one of the issues. And, it's been a really good project. So we're always looking for different ways we can serve, and we're always watching what the counties are up to, too, to see where we can tie in. And, we've got Commissioner Lensmeyer on the board. He's really good about keeping us informed. And you guys, as a county, are really great about making sure you have community members who represent your various constituencies, and they are very good about representing that on our board. We're very fortunate. I should point out, and I was going to mention this earlier, in relation to our budget, it's just an interesting thing that's happening, and it hasn't happened yet, but I don't want it to be a surprise when it does. The Great River Agreement set up between the 6 counties is the budgets themselves are based at 1/3 on population, 1/3 on net tax capacity, and 1/3 on borrower numbers. And so that's how much each county pays in relation to each other. In the Joint Powers Agreement, it also says it determines how many seats are on the board. So right now, Stearns County still pays more than Wright County, but it's getting closer and closer and closer as those tax capacities change. And we don't really know, we don't have a good way of predicting when that might flip. So right now, Wright County has 4 seats and Stearns County has 5. There may be a point in time where that changes, depending on how population, net tax capacity, and borrower numbers continue to play out. But this year, I think there's only a $100,000 difference between the 2 counties this year. So it's getting closer.
Maybe worth looking at just adding a person.
That's
Oh, really?
totally up to you. The counties have to agree, all 6 of them.
Right.
And when they do, we get some really awesome results. So
Yeah.
I
You
think
might
we'll find a way to-
have a
Commissioner Lensmeyer.
resource right here. Randy, you're in touch with your counterparts in the adjacent counties. What are they seeing for trends in their tax capacity?
Well, I think it goes with the growth. Of course, Wright County and Sherburne are seeing a lot of growth and increase in tax capacity, so that will continue. Right? Yep.
Alrighty. And then finally, I haven't brought this up at the board yet, but as we get farther into the new normal, maybe we get back to promotional events. We've got we've had a number of those in the past. They've gone over well. so we can do that again. But at least be thinking about what they could be if, and then we're just going to have to anticipate when a start time would be appropriate.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for being here. Again, on behalf of this board, we really appreciate your work. And
Thank you for your support.
See you guys.
all right, our next item is Public Works. Ms. Tyke, welcome.
Good morning.
Good to see you again.
My first item today is I'm asking the board to approve an access agreement with the City of Sauk Center. This is related to some development along County State Highway 72, or it's also called Beltline Road. As a side note, Commissioner Notch and I discussed this at its inception. This access agreement, we are proposing it, and the City of Sauk Center has approved it because we had removed access along this very short section of County Road 72 between Highway 71 and Getty Street just because of the turn lanes, and when we reconstructed that section of road, we removed that access. The city was having a very difficult time finding development for that lot, and so similar to something that we did in the city of St. Joseph a few years ago, we are putting our safety concerns back on the city of Sauk Center, who can, if they choose, put those back on the developer through their developer's agreement. So in the event that this access, once open and that lot area is fully developed, if we start having near misses, safety concerns, crashes, the City of Sauk Center at its own cost, which may or may not be passed on to the developer, we don't know that, will correct the situation. They will convert it. The first step would be to convert it to a right-in, right-out only, and then potentially ultimately eliminate it if that crash situation would continue. This protects the county, that we would have no cost in correcting a situation. It helps the city by allowing that development, obviously improves taxes within the county. So I'm asking the county board to approve this agreement with the City of Sauk Center.
I'll move for approval.
Great. Thank you, Commissioner Morgan. Is there a
I
second?
can second it.
Thank you, Commissioner Lenzmeyer. Any comments or questions? Seeing none, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes.
My next item is informational only, and open for discussion certainly as well. As you're aware, we had a public input meeting on Thursday, July 29th on proposed improvements at intersections along County Road 1 just west of the Rice Bridge. So if you look at your board packet on page 43, there's a map showing the general area, and then pages 44 through 46 show those options that our staff considered. As you may recall, this project was pushed back here because we thought we needed to go through a public input process because of some of the changes we were looking at these intersections. So just as a quick highlight, on page 44, it shows option 1 that we looked at, slight realignment of a couple of intersections. If you're looking at that layout to the right is north, and it goes toward the Rice Bridge on the lower right corner of that. Option 2 is very similar. The only difference between option 1 and option 2 is that County Road 1 northbound comes to a stop at County Road 2, as opposed to County Road 1 being the through route. And then option 3 includes a roundabout at the intersection of Xenia Road and 17 with County Road 1. So we did receive a lot of public comment in advance of the public input meeting in Brockway Township. Speed is generally people's biggest concern, and as you can imagine, like in most areas, people were pretty evenly split, either loving the roundabout idea or hating the roundabout idea. So we had a packed house, which is great for our public input meeting. And a few of the suggestions, again, people were kind of split. A lot of people liked option 1, which basically just includes realigning a couple of those intersections, separating that northerly leg of County Road 1 from the 17 intersection a little bit, just to allow some room for right turn lanes and bypass lanes. And of course, realigning that intersection with County Road 2 to make it a more defined intersection. People liked that. We also heard a lot of people like the idea of a roundabout just for the pure purpose of slowing traffic down coming from the Rice Bridge. Again, speed is the biggest concern, and no matter what we do here, I don't know that we're going to be able to control the speed. We also heard a lot about sight distance because of the vertical curves, the hills and valleys along County Road 1, combined with those horizontal curves on the roadway. So our staff at this point, we are looking at continuing to move forward with option 1, but we are also analyzing those profile grades to see if we can address some of those sight distance issues. We think we can certainly improve those issues. We may extend the project limits a little bit to the south to take care of some of those sags in the road and that impact how fast a vehicle comes up on you if you're turning out onto County Road 1. So I don't know if the board has received any other comments or if they have questions. Like I said, the roundabout idea, when we first put this on paper, we thought, okay, well, this looks good. There are a lot of issues with the roundabout just because of the adjacent topography. And then coming out of the roundabout, if you're southbound, there's a hill. And the amount of heavy truck traffic that is on this route, coming out of the roundabout at about 10 to 15 miles an hour and then trying to make it uphill, we've got some concerns that the vehicular traffic will try to pass those trucks coming out of there. So those are some of our concerns about the roundabout. I know we visited this on a road tour at one point, and we thought about that 5-legged roundabout. Just in further analysis, it would be very difficult, and we're a little concerned we'd create some more unsafe situations. But at this point, I'm sorry, I don't know if the board had any questions or comments on any of this.
Questions, comments? Commissioner Persky?
Yeah, you know I want to
I
see.
said, well, I knew you did, but I also saw you moving forward.
Okay. Yeah, Jody, yeah, thank you for the work on this. The other option would be to leave it as is. And I think we know that it's a very dangerous situation that we have. And of course, we're looking for an improvement to make it better. There's going to be no perfect one. Option 1 does provide us, with maybe some better safety on that. With regard to speed, it's so difficult to get people to slow down. I mean, whether it's in a residential area, I get those calls too about how do we get those people to slow down, and that's just, people doing what they should be doing. And oftentimes those are things that we have a little control over. And also just with the relationship of those bridges, people want to cut to the west side of St. Cloud, west side of Sartell. If they don't do it there coming down on Highway 10, they go across Sartell Bridge, and they prefer to maybe avoid that. So it's just a natural for some of the bigger trucks, to take that route, and it is what it is. So.
I will point out that the addition of the right turn lanes and the bypass lanes would address a lot of the concerns we received from people about they're concerned when they're slowing down to make a left turn that the people behind them are coming too fast. So those bypass lanes or right turn lanes are certainly going to address some of those concerns as well and keep traffic flowing, but getting that turning traffic off of the main roadway as well.
Yeah. And I appreciate your effort in the public hearing. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Miscellaneous items? Do you have
All right, so under miscellaneous, I only have one item, and that is, I believe you all received a copy of a letter related to a speed study on County Road 2 in Cold Spring. I also received a copy of that letter. I will be bringing that resolution back to the board on August 24th. I wanted to wait for the Cold Spring City Council to act on it, just to make sure that we were in agreement on the termini of that speed study. That area in front of the Rocori School along County Road 2 has been looked at a few times, but the last time an actual speed study was completed with recommended speed zones was about 10 years ago. Truck traffic has certainly increased in the area with the addition of the brewery warehouse. So I will be bringing that back on the 24th once I hear what the council's actions were, and that council meets tonight. So that's all I have unless anyone has anything for me.
Commissioner Mergen?
Jody, would you have a couple minutes after the board meeting?
Sure.
Okay, thanks.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I think that was our last item before issues by Commissioner. Commissioner Persky, why don't we start with you?
I don't have that much, other than our last meeting, we had a discussion started on the place we have for solar power and solar gardens in the county, and we didn't move that discussion forward too much. And I know it does remain somewhat of a contentious issue among some of us, But I think it would be better if we could have a continued discussion to iron out some of those concerns that we have. This past week, last week, the townships had requested that we meet with them out in Albany, and I was attending that meeting just to hear what they had to say, and they had some real concerns and frustrations about where they were. And I think, we obviously want to have, the use of solar in our county, but I think they're looking to have a little more say in how we go about doing that. So I think we need to continue that discussion.
Dr. Williams, I mean, we're planning on meeting with the township board after our next meeting, so there'll be some conversations there. And I think there's been some question about whether we have another conversation about localities, but that will be our next one.
Yeah.
That's our next meeting.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Can we have that on the board agenda for the next meeting?
It's going to be a separate meeting because it's not just that.
I
It's
know it's
several-
afterward, but
Yeah.
I don't,
I mean, it'll be noticed. So.
I agree with Joe on this. I don't think our discussion was complete.
No, I don't think it's
At the
complete.
board
but
level
This
here.
meeting's going to be broader than just that
Yeah.
topic. We haven't met with them in a long time.
I would like to have it on the agenda for us at the next.
I hear you.
And I'm okay with not doing it today just because Commissioner Notch isn't here. I'd like to have everyone here, but I would like to have it as part of an agenda item.
I have to admit, I think we will have a better conversation. This is also my opinion, just like that's yours, is that we've got several other things to talk about with them, and we'll have a more fruitful conversation when we can have a broader agenda on that. But Dr. Williams will be looking at that, and he will figure out what we're doing, and we'll move forward from there. Do you have anything else, Commissioner Mergen?
No, that was it. I'd like to have the solar discussion amongst the board on the agenda.
Here,
As
you
an
can-
agenda
I'm not
item.
sure we're ready for that yet. Again, that's a separate, I'm hearing you talk about a
After
solar
our-
conversation with the board, which is different than our township supervisor meeting. I don't think we're done with solar by any means. I think we'll be having another meeting.
Based on our last so-called study session of solar, I think we need to have it on the agenda.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Lensmark.
Pregnantly obvious by omission, in our alternative energy discussions, and that's my point, is that calling it a solar discussion or a wind discussion is pretty narrow. I'm not aware of the incentives, availability, et cetera, of heat pumps, and we have a number of properties in the county. I can think of two that just my social circle have at their homes. What are the incentives for heat pumps? How does what happens with heat pumps or how they're set up? How does that compare, contrast, whatever, to solar, to wind? So I think that merits some discussion. I don't have my little heart set on including that, but the reality is that option's out there. And so we need to at least know about it and maybe include it in the chat.
Yeah, that's digesters, where are farmers at with digesters at this point, or some of the other sources? There's an array of
And
things out there.
I don't know how far we want to do this, anaerobic digesters.
Yep, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah. So that's about all I've got. I went beyond the scope of my authority last Thursday in talking to the Sauk Rapids Public Works individual. They've got a beautiful layout alongside the river that they use to host concerts every Thursday night, and it bugs the jeebers out of them apparently when they look across the river, and there's all kinds of graffiti on the base of the old Sauk Rapids Bridge, the base of it on the Stearns County side. Well, I had to look twice to see it, well, 3 times, but it bothers them. You know, they're public, it turned out to be a therapeutic discussion because their public works person expressed his opinion of that particular oversight on our part and didn't mince words. And so I responded in kind, and when the discussion was over, I think we both felt better. So that was the feedback I got from him. Good news is neither of us cussed. So, you know.
Commissioner, were any of our names included in that graffiti?
Apparently
curious.
not. Apparently.
I only have had these glasses for a little while, so I can't tell if that's the case. But okay, and then after getting my butt chewed by this guy, I talked to Ross Olson, their city administrator, not 10 minutes later, and he's telling me about this amazing system they've come up with for removing graffiti. So I thought to myself, well, I guess that was a silly discussion I just had. So they've got a plan. I said, well, go ahead. Take
Well,
it down.
and it sounds like at least it was in a nice venue.
Oh, I don't know. I think the guys had a tough summer and needed an outlet. So
Absolutely.
I was his
I just meant the
bits
Sauk
psychologist.
Rapids, you were saying how nice it is out there. So maybe,
Oh.
hate to remind somebody
wait
about going
un-
to a
wait
different
until
county,
about
right?
the third week in September, because the Stearns County side of the river, looking at it from the Benton County side, is hardwoods. In about the third week in September, they'll be turning colors. It will be spectacular.
Sounds like time for a field trip.
Yeah.
So let's see, anything else, Commissioner Lenzmeyer? Okay.
No.
So I think the only thing I would add, since I seem to have gotten a text about this on my phone, is to remind people who are not yet vaccinated against COVID-19 but want to be, that there's $100 you get if you get it by your first dose by August 15th. And continue to enjoy all of our awesome outside adventures this summer. Mike, did you have anything else?
Yes, Madam Chair, just you brought up the township officers, and as we said, we're going to meet with them after your board meeting, kind of as we typically used to. And we do have, we'll talk about solar and broadband and the ARP, and there might be something else on there too, I can't remember. But then I also learned that what typically has happened is we would have that meeting, and then they would schedule their fall meeting. And they, for some reason, I don't really know why, and I spoke with Ann this morning, that they set their township officers meeting for September 16th, which is, while I think most of us would normally be at the AMC Policy Committee meetings. So that's why I talked to Ann this morning and told her that was a likely conflict. And she expressed some frustration on hers because they're deviating from their normal process. So I don't think they're going to change the date, but I did tell her that it would be problematic for some of us anyway, that we would be at that policy conference. So we'll figure out as best we can to work around however we need to do it, but I just thought I'd bring that up. So,
Commissioner Lenzmeyer? Lee, did you have something?
Yeah, if you had to, I could take the township meeting. It sounds to me like that will also be a therapy session, but so I'll volunteer to take it.
Well, and I think that I think we've all missed those meetings, and for me, that is when we're scheduled to, that night, we're leaving to go to San Francisco to spread my mother-in-law's ashes, so I will not be able to be there for that session unless it gets changed. At this point, I'm only going to be able to go to AMC for part of that Thursday.
Madam Chair, that could be problematic. I'm coming back from DC that day, so I don't know when I'm coming in
Yeah.
either, so.
Okay.
All right.
yeah,
Well,
like
we'll
I say,
figure it out.
we typically would have talked about the date at our next, with their executive board, but for some reason, it's already been set, so.
Okay.
All right, I'll open my remarks at that meeting by explaining that the rest of the board doesn't give a damn what I do.
I knew you were going to say that. We'll have to send a note saying, we really, really, really do care about you. All right. I think our meeting is adjourned.